You're listening to the Cosmic Dispatch. I'm Shea in the Catskills, filling in for Cory Nakasue. On today's show, I'm going to be talking to Jody Hojin Kimmel, teacher in the Mountains and Rivers Order of Zen Buddhism. But first, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Shea in the Catskills, a queer artist, tarotist, intuition facilitator, pleasure activist, organizer, library clerk, and contemplative who's been living in the town of Shandaken, Ulster County, in New York's Hudson Valley for 17 years. From 2010 to 2019, I lived in full-time residential monastic training at a Zen Buddhist monastery in the area where I actually took life vows. I left in late 2019 to pursue my vocation as an artist. I'm delighted to have this chance to share time and space with you while I fill in for Cory. You might have heard me in conversation with Cory during Gemini season when we talked about questions as technology and Mars and Gemini. So I want to let you know about a couple things that I'm up to right now before I introduce my guest. I just published my first book, Tarot as Questions, with Cosmic Doghouse Press. It's a 200-page spiral-bound Riso-printed tarot workbook and art book, and it turned out super beautifully, and I love it. It's currently available as a Riso-printed art book as a limited edition from Cosmic Doghouse Press. I do one-on-one tarot consultations with people, as well as teaching tarot workshops like Tarot 101, asking good questions, and using tarot to work with the dead. My favorite bit of work is the Study Tarot series, which is a monthly group study that takes up tarot constellations of major arcana and their corresponding minors in a group study format. And each monthly session includes 2 90-minute live online group study sessions, 20 pages of handouts on each month's constellations, which include images, curated meanings, and questions for reflection to bring the themes into your own experience, and an optional Slack channel for asking questions, sharing spreads, and generally nerding out about tarot. No prior tarot experience is necessary. This series is for you if you're interested in connecting with and deepening your intuition and learning how it speaks to you, being in community around creativity, imagination, intuition, storytelling, and deconditioning from the overculture, learning to read tarot for yourself, for others, for pleasure, or to support your creative work, reframing unhelpful stories, getting in touch with your heart's desire, associating study and practice with pleasure and ease, learning through multiple perspectives, that is, seeing how other people see, and exploring how the tarot relates to social, cultural, and political themes. If that sounds interesting to you, you can find out more about the Study Tarot series and all of the things I am up to at my website, shayinthecatskills.com. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce my guest for today. Jody Hojin Kimmel was born in Philadelphia, received a BFA from Slippery Rock State College and an MFA from Wichita State University in Wichita, Kansas. Hojin apprenticed with renowned ceramic artist Toshiko Takaezu and worked with Anagama master kiln builder and artist Katsuyuki Sakazume. In the early 1980s, Hojin encountered Zazen, seated meditation, and the Buddha's Four Noble Truths, and understood very quickly that Zazen was a fundamental way of being that was to be trusted. This way of being touched the heart of her art-making process and life, deepening her appreciation of not really knowing as essential to the art of living and breathing. Oh, my scalp tingles when I read that line. Hojin serves as the training director for the Mountains and Rivers Order and abbot of the Zen Center of New York City Fire Lotus Temple. Hojin's teaching centers around opening people up to the wonders and mysteries of the creative process and continues to offer art practices as part of her teaching. She has been in full-time residential training at the monastery since 1990 and now shares her time at the Brooklyn Temple. Welcome to you, Hojin. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, Shea. I'm so happy to join you and have this conversation. Yeah, thanks for asking me. It's wonderful to be with you. And the listeners.
Amazing. When I was reading your bio and it said her teaching centers around opening people up to the wonders and mysteries of the creative process, I actually got a little emotional because I thought of myself. And I maybe just want to start by just letting our listeners know how we know each other. I lived at the monastery with Hojin for almost a decade, and I trained for longer than that. And I was exposed first to John Dido Lori Roshi, who founded the monastery, which was originally called the Zen Arts Center. And he made creative practice, art practice, a central aspect of the spiritual training there. And when he died in 2009, Hojin, you really stepped forward and carried that piece of the practice and training. And I benefited from that to the extent that here I am out in the world claiming my identity as an artist. So I just want to express my deep, deep gratitude and appreciation for you and your teachings that have completely transformed my life. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for giving me that credit, but you transformed your life, and you took it up and opened that portal. Um, and that's really, of course, we always need someone, an influencer. They're really important for someone to, have see a potential in us, and which I was offered too in my training, and just say, yeah, but keep going,
Keep
keep
going.
going.
Yeah.
You're onto it, and take us through some of the struggles and wanting to quit, and this doesn't look like a not enough, and
All of that.
just keep going, keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea, Hojin, of you as an influencer because out here in the world that like means something, and I
I
I love
know.
I love the idea of Hojin. You are an influencer, a different kind of influencer. Blessed be.
Yes, I
Um,
realized that I was saying that. I was like, oh, well, okay.
it's
It's
true
like
though. You are.
reclaiming a word in another way.
I love it so much. So, okay, let's land together. Hojin, how are you arriving to this moment? How are you doing right now?
Oh, the air is nice in my room, and it was a full day. I had a clay retreat during this week, and followed by a board meeting. And so I took some space, and now I'm fresh and ready to meet you as I can be.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. How was the clay retreat? This is a clay bowl, pinch pots, raku fire that you've been leading at the monastery every August for many, many years. I actually got to take it when I lived at the
Ah,
monastery. We got to juice rocks at the river and draw bowls and pinch out bowls from balls of clay. And it's really such a dance of the elements. It's such an incredible experience. And how was it this year?
well, there's always some little wrench that comes and is thrown in. So this time, yes, we had the elements, and one of the elements on the kiln blew in mid-firing somewhere. And we thought we got to a temperature where we could start rakuing, and we glazed everything. Everyone's all excited, and we all of a sudden everything started blowing up. So, so we realized it did not reach a temperature that was going to get us much further. So that was, there we are, like right,
Beautiful shards, I am sure.
beautiful shards. Didn't even make it that far to color them, but um, we just had to really work with the situation, and it was good because, it's one thing if you're a participant and then you're the facilitator, you have a different role, and everyone's has this expectation of where we're going. So how one then leads, or what the feeling they're bringing in is communicated. Is this a bad thing? Or is this something now workable? I mean, we didn't get hit by a bomb. we have a beautiful day. The sun is shining. The sky is blue. We've got plenty of food and shelter. Are we going, like, this is what is, and how do we work this moment to the best? And how, for me, it was like seeing how much collective wisdom was present in our collaboration, and not to rush to fixing it, or like, that was the first thing, was like, what can we do? There was nothing to do. So how could we now just take in like things in our life, like what just happened, and where are we? Like, you asked me that question, how are you coming in? So you just got this piece of news. We're not going to be able to do this in such a way where you give yourself a chance to see what's happening in your system. It's not so fast that we say, like, okay, let's just go down and start making pictures. Or so we just sat with it for a while and let things sort of, unfold. And it turned out we had pots from last year that were fired. So we thought, let's all glaze them all together, fire those, and go through the process so we can at least see it. And then we realized some of the smaller ones worked. So we actually got 2 firings, and then we did a little raffle, and everyone got a bowl. And some said, wow, this was even better than getting my own. So these were unexpected delights that come from, if you can just stay in a situation of where it's disturbing, feels incomplete, and stay in that, you said, that wonder, that awe of, like, where are we? Like we're okay, fundamentally,
Hmm.
some. Mm.
I'm so glad I asked. I mean, what a what a great example of not wasting anything, and I'm not just talking about the bowls that you reuse, but
Yeah,
not wasting the reality of the situation as an opportunity to sort of enter.
right. And that's kind of what it's always about, in a way. The bowls are just extra nice to get. And also, I wish it would have worked the way I wish I can appreciate that loss. And and also it made me see, like, oh, there's things I work with someone with Yosha, Scott Childress, and we said, okay, there's some things we need to do to prep, and realize how our lives were moving on before it, you know, that we need to take care better too.
Beautiful. All
Yeah.
of that is beautiful. So I kind of was interested in talking to you. Talked to a lot of people over the weekend and I said, what should I ask Hojin? And they're like, just, ask her anything. And, it's like, it's going to be amazing. But what I kind of wanted to ask you about was um, the ways that you see practice itself. And what I mean by that is how you decide to practice, what you decide to practice, how you sort of shape and form your practice. How is that a creative process for you? Do you see it as a creative process?
Hmm. Well, um, so my practice is, how am I breathing? And how am I breathing and mindful in relationship? And how am I part of this environment and breathing with this environment that I'm in? And um, so my practice. um, see, how do I practice? So I study cause and effect, and um, I have a schedule that I follow, like, as a daily life practice. And so, are you talking about, like, art practice, or just
Yeah,
life?
I mean, in a way, I guess I'm asking
Yeah.
this question because I see the ways that I kind of shape. I don't have a schedule. I don't have, the ways that I shape my practice feels very creative to me. Like,
Oh,
here's what I'm going to sort of settle into for this next little period of time. Here's this question that I want to take up. How do I actually, what would it look like to practice this question? How would, those kinds of things. And perhaps another angle to get at it is, in what ways do you feel like your art practice resonates with, helps you understand what you're doing, interacts with the other aspects of your practice? All of this is sort of, I guess, asking about the relationship between creativity and spirituality. So, any thread you want to pick up, any direction you want to take it in, go for it.
okay. Well, I guess I would say I feel like I'm nature, and all of nature is a process. It's not an object, and so all of life is a creative process. What are we doing moment to moment? What are the questions we either move by or live by, and how does that form in a way that's, I mean, obviously I'm looking for benefit, to be of benefit, and not continue suffering. Um, so what do I create? And then sometimes that lands on paper or in words or in images. I don't always need special time for that. So I usually keep something out so that um, this muse, or this need to make a mark, is just part of my day. And they build throughout the day. Um, and so yeah, I see life as ceremony, that
Mm,
the moment I wake up and through sleep has its own ceremony. um, that there's a celebration going on, and I can't say it's always like that. Of course, and even the moments that are difficult, so-called difficult, um, for me, that you talk about asking good questions. One of mine is like, what am I believing right now? And
mm.
is it true? Especially when it's suffering or something came in that I have a strong reaction to. And that's part of a creative process. Um, so yeah, I think, yeah.
That's exactly like that was so rich. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Beautiful. I have a question when you talked about, that you're wanting to be of benefit, in some ways that seems almost too obvious to say. But my question is, how do you, what is the feedback you get when it's beneficial?
Mm,
Or what is a barometer or way that you know? In other words, maybe, if we're talking about beneficial and suffering, like, what are the particular kinds of feedback that you notice for yourself in your own practice when something is beneficial versus when something is not? Does that
mhm.
make sense?
Well, part of the creative process is to stop making sense, but uh,
Mm.
I'm always telling people, now you can stop making sense. We always encourage to
Like
be,
a whole like weight lifted off me as you
yeah,
say that. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't have to make sense, but um, so a lot of it's my insides, and what I feel like, and then it's in that relational piece of seeing what someone or someone's feedback is, or reception of something I'm doing. That's um, that gives me feedback on what I'm creating.
Mm,
So sometimes I could feel a dregs, like if I something I created, an action that was not so, not so, left some residue in my mind or my body. I can feel it pretty quickly now, with so much practice and getting more still, that I was like, oh, that didn't feel so. And then there's the creative process of, how do I now work with that? Can I go back to someone and say, like, you know what? I didn't want to do that. I don't like that. That's not, I don't want that. I don't want to be like that, you
Can we
know?
have a do-over?
Can we have a do-over? And we all have our styles of responding to do-overs, as we know.
Yes.
And so space is a big part of that. It may happen very quickly, and it may be a more spatial thing where time is needed and space, and then it might come to something. Yeah.
Beautiful. Can I ask what role pleasure plays in your practice and your art practice at this time?
Oh gosh, you're hitting all the big ones.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Means me.
Yeah. I know who we're talking about. Okay. Yeah. So I think that it's not anything to be ashamed of, to want pleasure in your mind, in the sense of um having an openness and an enjoyment of, within the mind, within the heart, within the body. And it's not like that's the driving hunger to get to seek pleasure, but we have choices as we're moving through life, how we want to meet situations. And even if it's a difficult reaction or something, it's my pleasure to encounter whatever's I'm reacting to. That it's somehow, if that's there, then I can have a very beautiful question. I could have uh yeah, very really consider something, and bring that pleasure to my mind, that I am alive, and I have sensory experience, and it may be I feel my pain deeply, and that can bring me a sense of pleasure that I can feel, and I'm not dismissing or neglecting a part of myself, that it's inclusive. Um, and I can take great pleasure in the minds of others that way, and understand um, that they can also route that way, and we can bring that together, to sometimes to find our way back to our natural state, which is a pleasurable mind and heart. I think
Mm.
that's natural. And I don't think it's just in my situations. I've met people in other countries and other cultures who have that same pleasure in their mind about the awesomeness and the mystery and the wonder of like not knowing, like, what is this? What who are we?
Alive. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's where pleasure is these days.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked. I love that. It reminds me of my friend Hakeem, who's incarcerated in Illinois. He asks me all the time when I talk to him, he says, "Are you enjoying your experience?"
Mm,
That always, that what you said kind of reminds me of that question that he asks me, because it's not like, "Are you having a good time?" It's,
yes.
"Are you enjoying your experience?" Like
Yes.
whatever it is. And I love the way you put that, as like, it's my pleasure actually to encounter my aliveness in whatever form it's showing up in.
Mhm.
What a beautiful practice.
Do you ask him that? Like, did you ask that to him?
Experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
his stock answer that he always says to me is, "I'm too blessed to be stressed." And I said, "Oh, Hakeem, you need to bottle that and send it out to all of us."
Yeah,
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 he's enjoying his experience more than most, I think,
yeah.
people I know in this world.
Oh,
Um,
I yeah.
yeah, was there something else you wanted
Well,
to
I don't know if you know Eddie Halessium. She was in the camps. She actually was put to the gas chamber in Auschwitz. Um, but she found within the camp, suddenly her mind just opened to the this beauty of the awful, this beauty of her experience, that could not be taken from her. That was her business.
Mm.
That within her situation, I was very influenced by her life. She has a book called An Interrupted Life, I think it's called. And that stayed deeply with me, how she would just see like a cloud and a puddle that just happened to be in the mud, and it would, our heart would light up, or just the eyes of someone, or a hand, or and even in the, you know, the people who were the so-called perpetrators, she could see the beauty of their hearts that was covered. And it was just, and she had great joy till the very end, as far as I understood, because she had some diaries, and a postcard was found in a field that said, "We're singing all the way to the camps." And that's kind of how she got discovered, from that postcard.
Ugh, I have tingles all over my whole body hearing
Yeah.
that. I remember you telling me about her,
Oh,
and it's just I'm taking it in freshly.
mm,
I love the way that you frame it, that like it was her business. You know,
yeah,
there's something that is fundamentally our business that
yeah.
doesn't um that can't be taken away by any external circumstance.
Right. And so that's what I think of with others too. It's like there's my business, and then sometimes there's someone's business, and I can ask, is that mine? Is that in my field? You know?
Sometimes our business mixes and mingles
Yes.
with each other. For
Yes.
better, for worse, in all the different ways.
Right.
I love that. I want to make sure that we talk about your Out of the Darkness exhibit.
Mhm.
Could you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. So, um, yeah, one of my dear women friends, who we do art together. Um, she says we should, we've both been working for a long time, and as you said, Dido was my teacher, and as he was dying, he said to me, "Hoj, please don't let the arts die." And I said, "I won't, Dido, I won't." And I knew I just won't. And so I have accumulated lots of work, and have been doing stuff on Zoom since COVID started a Friday morning. Every Friday we would get on from 10:30 to noon, and people work in their studios, and it's been really wonderful and amazing. And so my sister said, we should get a show together of like the whole the whole time of your life and your work. And at first I was like, oh, I don't know, but then I thought, I have so much stuff. I've never really shared it, and I would be okay with that. And also including other people in it as part of the expression. So Out of Darkness is, 40 some years of work collected. And that um, we now made this little brochure, and it has an educational aspect. So I don't know what kind of gallery would accept it, and but we're hoping and to get it somewhere. And out of darkness comes from like the where things sort of come from, out of the darkness, out of the not knowing, out of what hasn't formed and is comes into some form and will return to formlessness. So that's what we're now trying to take around and see if anyone might be interested. And I also want to release things. Like I wouldn't mind now, like I've kept so much. I would like it to go out and experience that. Yeah.
There's so much there in what you said. First, there's a few things I want to say. One is that these Friday Zoom sessions that Hojin does, you can find out about those on the monastery's website, and I'll put a link there. And you can just come to those. You can register for them, come
Yes.
from your house, you
Right.
know, zooming in your house with whatever kind of materials you have, pen and pencil, crayons, markers, whatever.
Voice, guitar, dancing, movement. It's your space. Yes.
And I really encourage you that if there's any cell in your body that is perking up at hearing this, please register and have the experience, because the chance to actually do art practice with Hojin is yeah, just do that. Um, the other thing I wanted to talk about is this out of the darkness, to hear you sort of talk about this. We live in a culture where the lights are on all the time,
Yeah.
and 24/7 the lights are on. you know um there's such an emphasis on light. I also think of, that we live in an anti-black white supremacist culture where, you know white is associated with the light and black is associated with the dark, and there's a lot of cultural meanings around that. And so reclaiming the darkness as this generative um, space, this dark soil of generation and regeneration and compost and wonder and mystery, is your work so touches that so deeply. And I remember when I took the clay retreat with you, doing the charcoal drawings of the bowls. And it's just like your whole life's work is so much about the bowl, this container
Mm.
of empty space, or this container that can be filled with anything, but it emerges, this emergence from the dark. So I just am really appreciating the title of the exhibit, and the way that you're framing it is to actually reclaim our relationship with the dark.
Mm. Yeah. Tashiko, who I worked with, she used to say, don't worry about the outside. She said, just work in the darkness, like create the space in the vessel. Don't worry so much about the outside form. You have to hold it and it'll and have it be there, but it'll form if by how you put yourself on the inside and open it in the darkness. And of course she closed her pots completely and held that in such a round full form, and sometimes would drop a little couple beads inside, so you would just hear sound, a little bit of sound. If you picked her vessel up, you knew there was this wide open space, but it was not revealed in such a direct seeing way.
My God, didn't you say that she used to hear people come into the gallery, or the space, and the way that she could hear the beads rattling, she would like know something about these people and whether they should actually be able to take one of her pots home with them?
That's right. She said, you go greet them and tell them they can pick things up carefully. And then she would do just that. She would listen to the rattle and she could see if they shook it, like, or they just rolled it. She would just have her own little feeling, intuitive feeling about who she might meet from the sound.
It reminds me of sitting at the head of the Dokusan line with the bell and the striker, and you would hear the teacher ring the Dokusan bell in the Dokusan room, and you'd have to strike the bell 2 times, and they would have a sense of, like, what was about to come in. And
Right.
yeah, amazing.
Call and response, right?
Exactly, exactly. I
Right.
left us a nice, juicy bit of time to go through these questions together because I'm really interested to hear all of your answers. So, how this will work is that Hojin and I will both answer as many as of these questions as there's time for. And so, I want to start with Hojin. What are you practicing right now?
Um, these are complex questions. Like, what, what are you practicing right now?
Do you
And
want me to answer them first? Would that feel like, does it matter? Like,
I'm like, on which realm? I'm
oh,
like,
give us a couple rounds.
yeah, go ahead. You go first.
Okay. I am practicing, as I said about, my friend Hakim's question to me, I'm practicing letting myself have my experience
Mm,
in a really uh, bringing that more intentionally to my mind, and in particular with receiving in all its forms, receiving my experience, receiving feedback, receiving things that I would call good, things that I would call I'd rather not, but just really practicing receiving that. Um, so that's something that I'm practicing right now.
mm. Okay, thank you for that. That's really beautiful. Yeah. Um, I've been working with um coming forward more, um, and not trying to uh f- um yeah, coming forward and oh, been really appreciating incorrectness,
Mm,
um and and really pressing into um, this complication with perfection, or being like complete, like, or clear. Um, and so I have a lot of questions about around that, and expectations that I've had of myself, of who I need to be, and what that looks like, and just compassionately inquiring some of these ideas, especially being in a community, in a, kind of a, yeah, in a communal situation, and having a role, um, how to um, use that.
mm.
What is that? And um, what and my ideas of correct. Um, so that's kind of what I've been working with, I think. And I think it's showing in my work, because I've been using, brown paper bags a lot, and um, just turning the world upside down again and again. Whatever I'm doing, I turn it around again and again, and make strange connections, and don't make sense. So it's a different way of working.
I'm so glad I asked. Thank you for that. Who are you listening to right now? I'll go first. I've been listening to the katydids at night. It is the time when they are making their curtains of sounds, and it's a very emotionally and spiritually evocative sound for
Mm,
me. brings up ancientness. It brings up sitting in the Zendo for many, many Augusts,
Mm,
just bathed in those curtains of sound of the katydids. It's a very particular time of year. So I've been really paying attention to that. I'm always listening to the crows up to their business that they're up to. So that's a bit of what I'm listening to right now. What about you, Hoach?
great. Well, I live in two places, so now I'm on the mountain. So those things you speak of the wind and the trees here, and there's a crow contingency at the compost bin that are like having a card game or something. I don't know. They are like hackling it out over there. They're all on different kind of levels, and it just shoots across the field, here. And so there's those natural sounds and the city sounds. And I remember, there's so many sirens, I can't tell you, and fire trucks, siren. And I remember Ajahn Chah saying he went on this retreat in India, and he went to do this very solemn, quiet retreat in the woods. And turned out he was right next to a village that was having a party. And there he was, like, and he was cursing everyone, "You're ruining my life, I came here to do this quiet retreat." And then again he realized, like, okay, this is my mind, like, it's turning it into, like, why is that different from the birds chirping? I've been using that teaching in the city as another engine screams by. um there's some people I listen to, and like I've been liking Bio Akomolafe. um I like binaural sounds. Yeah, and Shruti kind of box sounds, like these things, like you're saying, this ancient feeling comes in, and sort of a resting in the mind, like the insects going. So that's
Beautiful.
what I'm listening to.
Beautiful. That Ajahn Chah story reminded me of like Saturday night zazen at the temple, and the Y next door is like having a dance party, like sharing a wall. Amazing. Amazing. What are you reading right now? I'll go first. I'm reading Sophie Strand's new novel, The Madonna Secret,
Oh,
that
yeah.
just came out, landed in my mailbox, I think on Thursday. It is a page turner, and it is a feminist retelling of the Gospels.
Hmm.
It is magnificent. And she's actually having her book party as you and I are speaking. She's having her book party at St. Gregory's in Woodstock. Congratulations, Sophie. I'm so proud of you. Happy
Congratulations,
for you.
Sophie. Yes,
So that is what I am reading right now. What are you reading right now?
that's so cool, because I haven't seen Sophie for a while, and to me she's still a very little person, and I know she's grown up, but I haven't seen her. So that's amazing to hear her work, and I've listened to some of her talks as well. You know, I'm I'm not a straightforward book reader. I have about 10 going at once, and I pick up in different places. I've been rereading Shamanic Bones of the Ancestors, by Zenju Earthland Manuel. I might have the wrong title. Hold on.
I've heard of that book actually from a
Yeah.
few people. I haven't picked it up yet, but
I'm just about to start The Warmth of the Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. Um, I have Dakini Teachings, which I received for Christmas from one of my Dharma sisters. And I've been tapping into Ross Gay's book of delights, where he finds a delight every day. And then there's just Dharma readings that are pretty constant.
yeah, I also read like that. I say I read like I browse the internet, like I have all these tabs open. I have all these
Yeah,
different books that I'm in like different state, and it depends on what my mood is. But
right, right.
yeah,
Yeah, and so much good writing and things to read.
what questions are you asking right now? And I'll go first. I think a question that I am asking myself quite a bit right now, as a sort of practice question, like in a moment, is what am I really longing for right now?
Mm.
And it's a question that's leading me to be more intentional about how I use my time and my energy, uh, by really checking. It's a check in question. What am I really longing for right now? So that it gets me off of automatic pilot a little bit, where I can just be in a state of motion and just keep going. And that's a question that I'm asking right now to, yeah, help me, basically. What about you?
Um, well, interesting. I don't usually have clear cut questions that come in a sentence. Um, so a lot of my questioning is like in my movement and my interaction. That's all a big question. What am I, how, what, and it's not in a self-conscious way, but it's just the question. I feel like I know people say like live like you're a question mark. And I do feel like that. I think everything's up for questioning. Um, and so that's kind of like I feel like I kind of live in that space of not of seeing like I don't really know anything for sure. And and I used to feel like I had to, or I was insufficient or missing something, um, because I didn't know and I wasn't so sure. And so I guess I'm questioning that that might be like a place in culture in my life that it needs to be prized and loved, that we're not so sure. And so that has been sort of a monster, um, has become a real ally and a real friend.
Ugh, Hojin. I love that so much. It's like the wound that becomes a superpower. It's beautiful. And I also just had such a hit when you were talking about, that your questions aren't like verbal sentences necessarily, and I sort of had this hit of like, oh, a like utterly somatic
Mm.
an embodied question, an embodied inquiry. That's so beautiful.
It's like you know me a little bit, and so like that's why I have probably a big pause when you ask me a question, because it's not how I think, like, first. So I have to find language sometimes. You see my hands going, people don't, but that's where my feeling is, my emotion and sense is that grappling is in my body.
Yeah, it's worth you taking the pause and finding your embodied language because it's the message comes through crystal clear, let me tell you. I'm feeling it over here. Um, what's inspiring you right now?
Hmm. What's inspiring me right now? This, um, okay, I'm taking a pause.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'd like you to go
Okay,
first.
I'll go first. I didn't mean to break the routine there.
Okay, that's something. But go ahead.
Okay, what's inspiring me now? I was listening to the For the Wild podcast, which is one of my favorite podcasts with Ayana Young,
Oh,
and she had a guest on. Their name is James Bridle, and they
mm,
were talking about modes of intelligence. And
mm,
they said something. James Bridle said, intelligence is embodied and relational.
mm,
And I feel like that dropped in deeply into my cauldron of my body, heart, mind. And I am just completely inspired by that reframe of a word that intelligence has meant something very particular, in my life. And to hear it framed as embodied and relational feels complete, like a literally a breath of fresh air. What about you?
Oh, okay. So since I mentioned Bayo Komolafe, he was speaking about something I was listening to with Catherine May, um, called hushes. And he calls hushes attempts to disturb our notion of completion. And that because I've been like I said to, I give talks a lot now, believe it or not, in the city. And I start them and I can never finish them. So I thought I'm going to give a talk on all the talks I started and can't complete, because I get to a certain point and I'm like, I'm done. I can't complete this. I don't have a wrap up. And I thought, like, how am I going to make this work for me? Like, I start and I have this, like, this is that part of, like, what am I looking for? What do I think I need to be? What do I think this nerd needs to turn out to be?
That is
That,
completion.
and that's what's stopping me. So I have to look at that. So he said, hushes are attempts to disturb our notion of completion. And he said that we have a right to incompletion, a right to slowing down and pausing before going on. So that has been really inspirational. Yeah. He says we think of ourselves as complete in a certain way, or we have to get there. That's what that perfection, that one of my talks that I started was on, because Buddha said we're perfect and complete, lacking nothing. And I don't know if it's just an American thing, but we take that word perfect, and with all the things we see on the images of everybody looks so happy and they have these homes and the right gym suit and blah blah blah. It's like it stirs. So what is this perfection and the beauty of incompleteness? And I've been inspired by kintsugi, which is the golden line repair of vessels, and cracks, like working with cracks. And I've been completing the pots when I put them, if they're broken, I've been completing them with other things, not just where they came, like their own body, but other bodies can now join because an opening happened. So I can put in like part of a whole other pot. I've got your piece that you left in the clay studio kintsugi'd into a bowl.
I want to tell people, because we're about to bring it in for a landing,
Okay.
that if you want to work with Hojin, check out the monastery's website. You can find out about all the things that I'm doing at shayandthecatskills.com. And I want to thank Cory and everyone here at Radio Kingston for helping me sit in this seat these last few weeks. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all so much for listening.